Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Vakaratunda Mahakaya Surya Koti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurame Deva Sarvakarishu Sarvada. Om Ganganapate Namaha. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha. Gurudeva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sarva Mangala Mangalle Shive Sarvartha Sadike. Sharanye Trambake Gauri Narayani Namosute. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Mahalakshmi Rupena Samstita. Namaste, 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 namo namaha. Om Shri Sadgurubhyo namaha. Om Shri Hanumate namaha. Welcome to Nitya Satsang. Today is the 15th of January 2025. I want to offer my prostrations to all the great sages and to Bhagavan, residing in the heart of every single being. With that bhavana and prarthana, we are continuing to examine the mysteries of the Mandukya Upanishad. As I mentioned before, we will be doing special retreats on Advait Vedanta only this year. I will be sending out the dates for that later on, but we'll be having several of those retreats, and maybe we'll have them much more consistently. And we are specifically focusing this entire year and probably many years ahead only on Advait Vedanta, and maybe some other connections also, but mostly on Advait Vedanta, to really dive deep into it through the Bhagavad Gita, through the Upanishads, through the Brahma Sutras, the Prastantraya, and of course the Vivek Chudamani. So to continue from yesterday, we were looking at the entire concept of Nam and Rupa, names and forms, which are commonly talked about in the Upanishad. So let me just quickly go over what we talked about yesterday very quickly, and then we'll move into the next further examination of this. First of all, very clearly we can see that the phenomenal world is a state of flux. It is a constant flux. It is perceptual change and transformation. Nama means the name or linguistic designation. Rupa are the physical forms. Right? So the example that was given that we looked at yesterday, and I'll highlight it here for you so you can see that. Okay. At the example of a tree, right? Very simple example. The tree is identified by the nama meaning the naming tree, and its rupa includes characteristics such as height, color, texture. However, the tree itself is in a state of constant transformation. Its leaves fall, it grows, it withers, and it ultimately decays. The perceptual continuity humans ascribe to the tree is a construct of the mind, which imposes a sense of permanence on an otherwise impermanent entity. This is the key point to keep in mind before the permanent reality, that is the Chaitanyam, the Akshara Brahma, can be realized. Right, so let's get these points very, very clear conceptually, and then we can move towards realization through various sadhanas. So the first point is that every object we see, every object, every being, everything that is in our perception, including this body, including this mind, others' minds, others' bodies, is constantly transforming. It is in a state of flux. It is not permanent, but our mind imposes a sense of permanence. There's a purpose for that also. Why does it do that? So that we can live with some level of security and stability in the world. That's why it does that. There's a purpose behind everything, including the imposition of the sense of permanence. But the Jnani, and this is what we were left off from yesterday, one who is a Jnani is able to constantly be aware. Akhanda Gyan, isko kehte hai. It is an unbroken awareness that there is absolutely nothing permanent. No situation, no person, no object, no event. Nothing is permanent. We know this. We know it, but that's not Jnana. Gyan is a different stage, completely state, where that knowledge, that information that things are impermanent is internalized inside the system completely, inside our mental system completely. And hence, what is the result of that Gyan, or what is the manifestation of that? It is a state of mind where there is no contradiction and there is great maturity of the inner wisdom. It is the maturation of the inner wisdom where contradictions have set aside, where contradictions are not present. Now, which contradictions are we talking about? The contradiction between that sense of permanence that the person has generated, and also the realization, the knowledge that is not permanent. This is a contradiction. And there's no need for that contradiction. What we want are for the two to come together, that there is a relative sense of permanence, but in actuality, there isn't any permanence. So that relative sense of permanence is needed for peace of mind, for steadiness, for interaction, for living our life here. If we didn't have any sense of permanence at all, we wouldn't be able to live in this world. Can you imagine what that would be like? It would be total chaos. We go for shopping somewhere for 2 hours, come back, and our home is not there. Everything is changed. Kuch alag hi ban gaya. We cannot live like that. That is not the way Prakriti manifests. So that temporary sense of permanence, that relative permanence, has a purpose, but it should not be mistaken for the fact that things are actually permanent. They are not. They keep changing. We know this. All right. That means that the contradiction disappears. That is Guru. Guru Tattva is the key. Running the outside gurus, they're teachers, or they're living whatever their life they're living. They are guides. True Guru could be a physical guru, could be a scripture, but actually the Guru is the realization of non-contradiction within us. That is Guru. Guru is not about clothes and tilaks and sampradayas and all those things. Those are the means. They are a means to realization. The realization is the only thing that is of relevance, right? Okay, now, to further elaborate on this point, the maturity that happens within our system, that maturity is an effulgent, very, very trans Maya effulgence. So actually, sometimes just in that modality of trying to reach that, I actually just in the winter time, I like to get some long sleeve clothes. I put this orange, this is an orange colored cloth, right? You can get it from online. The Tyagis wear this, but not that I'm not a Tyagi, but I just put it because it's very cold in the house sometimes. That's why. But what is the purpose of the orange color? It's not about clothes or color. It has to do with symbolism of Nirguna state. The Nirguna state is beyond Sattva Gun. That is why ये जो त्यागी संत जो बन जाते हैं, they put on all the orange robe. Those who have the white robe, that is symbolism of Sattva Gun. You see, so in the Tyagashram, the goal is to reach that non-contradictory state beyond the Sattva Gun. You're completely free. So that is a higher level diksha, the orange clothes. जिसको कहते हैं भागवती दीक्षा, saffron clothes. They're not orange clothes, but they're called saffron clothes. It's a saffron is the color. केसरी कपड़े है वो. तो इसका meaning क्या है? It means Brahman. It means beyond the Sattva Gun. So their name is changed into Swami Satchidanand or Swami, whatever the name is, some different name is there. वो सब Brahmic names hai. Those like Vivekananda. Why the Naren was given that name Vivekananda? Why is that? Because that is referring to the Upanishadic reality. वो सब Upanishad में से आए हैं. Even the naming of the renunciate sages who wear the saffron clothes, their names are based on the realization of the Brahma Tattva. Very interesting. And so there are stages, depending on which organization you go into, there are stages of this Tyagashram Diksha. इसमें दो मार्ग है, गृहस्थ आश्रम और त्यागाश्रम. So those who are grihastha ashram, they also have diksha to follow a path. The goal is the same for both of them, but there are two different paths to reach the same goal. Again, that's another subject altogether. We'll get to that some other time. We will talk about that also. But the point here is that what is the goal? What is the end point? To reach a state of non-contradiction where there is no breakage of antarik shakti. हमारे अंतर में जो शक्ति है, जिसको एनर्जी कहते हैं, which we talk a lot about in the Angel Wing program, the PTP program, and lots of other places. But the concept is exactly the same. It's not just a concept, it's the reality. We have energy. Can we live a life without any breakage of that energy? The moment energy begins to break apart in terms of splitting, in terms of contradiction, in terms of getting fragmented and all that kind of stuff, it's getting torn apart, then realization is not possible. कभी भी नहीं होगा. In Vachanamrut में स्वामीनारायण भगवान कहते हैं, in Garada Ante number 2, it is called Chitta Vibhrant. There's a discussion about this point, this fragmentation point, and he's described it this way, that as a sadhak begins the sadhana process and begins the progression towards the Brahman, at some point in the middle stage, the whole mind gets split apart. Why? Because we have not reached adequate level of internal purification, in antarik shuddhi, internal jnana. There's deficiencies. That is the Maya is pulling the individual and tearing apart the individual. Then the person is stuck right in between. I'll give you a simple analogy. A caterpillar is fine as a caterpillar. A butterfly is fine as a butterfly. But that metamorphosis process is where that whole process has to completely it has to go, the caterpillar dissolves actually into like a liquid. And then the whole reformation happens. But if it gets 50% through and then it stops the transformation, it is no longer a caterpillar, it is not a butterfly, it is something in between. It cannot live, it is stuck right there. Can you imagine if it is frozen? You take a 50% stage transformative caterpillar that's becoming that 50% and you freeze the whole thing. It's frozen. Maybe it's still alive, maybe it's dead, who knows, but it's frozen right there. This is the situation of quite a few number of people doing sadhana. They're frozen in between. They're frozen in between because they have not completed the process to the end. You see, so what is that process? That process is of evolving from inside into a state of zero energy damage. If you take thousands of scriptures, it comes to just this point. Because this thing we can understand and we can also experience. We know, start worrying, start thinking, and the more elaboration on this is in our other programs. Those other programs in the Angel Wing program are foundational to all these things we're talking about here. This is like going further from there. And then we're going straight into Advait Vedanta. So it's pretty high level stuff because you're assuming that all that other foundation work is done, right? But this is the point. What is the goal actually? The goal is to reach a state of maturity where there is a completely different, an entirely different growth of Shakti. Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Ichha Shakti. 3 प्रकार की मुख्य शक्ति है. And it begins to grow in a completely different way towards liberation, rather than it spinning in the same chakras of Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moha, Matsar, Asha, Trishna, Irsha, Rag, Dvesh, Aham, Mamatva, money, sex, greed, position, power, ye jo sab kachra hai, this has to completely be transcended. This is all trash. That whole list. What is the standard list? Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moha, Matsar, Asha, Trishna, Irsha, Ahankar, Rag, Dvesh, Chal, Kapat, Mera, Tera, divisiveness, just endless amount of running in the material world blindly. You can never get out of the material world that way. Be born millions of times. Bahunam janmanam ante. We have, as we mentioned before, there are two paths. One very long path and one direct path. We have to choose. Direct path lena hai, bahut bahunam janmanam ante gyanavanam prapade. You want to do that one, as Gita says. It's up to us. इसमें श्रद्धा होनी चाहिए कि भगवान कृष्ण जो कहते हैं वो पूरा सत्य है. The direct path is that I am liberated, meaning that my energies are harmonious. मैं कौन? मैं ब्रह्म हूँ. अक्षरम अहम, मैं ब्रह्म तत्व ही हूँ. That there's no doshas, there's no divisiveness. None of those things are there. It's like someone who is working that $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a job at some restaurant for a whole lifetime. On all of a sudden, they realize that in my house there is $1 billion diamond in my house. I never knew that. And our whole 70 years are spent trying to become a store manager somewhere. When you realize कि मेरी अंदर ही भगवान है, मेरी साथ ही भगवान है. मैं कौन हूँ? मैं ब्रह्म हूँ, मैं अक्षर हूँ, मैं दिव्य हूँ. With that realization, the Upanishad is called Mahavakya. And just hold that. Don't move away from that. Meaning what? That is why it is called Mahavakya. I mentioned it before. There are 6 Mahavakyas, if you remember what they are. Those people taking notes and all that. Some people are doing this online who are not live. There are 6 Mahavakyas. Soham, Ayam Atma Brahma, Tattvamasi, Pragnananam Brahma, Aham Brahmasmi, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. These are the 6 Mahavakyas. If you take 108 Upanishads and find the extract of all 108 of them, these are the 6 great statements, declarations in the Upanishad. It all boils down to these 6. And take any one of them and live with it. Completely, not 99%. Adopt it 100% within even few hours, few minutes, or even few seconds, one can be liberated. It's not a question of time. Liberation is always because you're already liberated, actually. That's what Raman Maharishi taught us. We're already the Atman. Atman is not something that you're going to get from somewhere else. That's who you already are. It's not something that is going to come from the outside. It's a realization of what already is. And that is called the Mahavakyas. Great statements. Take any one of them. And just add one more thing to the Mahavakya. मैं भगवान का दास हूँ. भगवान अखंड साकार मूर्ति है, परमात्मा. इतनी निष्ठा होनी चाहिए. Otherwise you can wind up in निराकार ब्रह्मन और भगवान की भक्ति ही नहीं रहेगी. So we don't want that to happen. So इसीलिए ब्रह्मोहम कृष्ण दासोस्मि. The Vaishnavas have added that second part. बहुत सुंदर. It's very good. शिक्षापत्री में महाराज ने भी ये भी लिखा है. निजात्मानं ब्रह्म रूपम देहत्रय विलक्षणम विभावितेन कर्तव्या भक्ति ही कृष्णस्य सर्वदा. शिक्षापत्री श्लोक 116. It is the bridge and the holding together of Brahma Vidya, the Advaitic Gnan, along with Bhakti. Iska combination karna. Para Bhakti and Advaita. I just finished a book on this. We're going to do the retreats this year. It'll be a lot of fun. Bahut maja aayega. We'll go deep into Advaita Vedanta. We're kind of touching on it every single day in bits and pieces here. But we'll do a much longer series of workshops and all that. It's a lot of fun. And it's worth doing. Aur जीवन में करना भी क्या है? ये काम क्रोध लोभ मोह मत्सर आशा तृष्णा ईर्ष्या अहंकार इसमें क्या मिलेगा? कुछ नहीं मिलता इसमें से. इसमें तो दुख ही मिलता है ultimately. It has some purpose, no doubt, up to some point. Somebody keeps running after that, they're going to wind up in tremendous amount of pain. That's the only result of those things. भगवान कृष्ण स्वयं कहते हैं गीता जी में, चैप्टर 2, ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः संगस्तेषुपजायते, संगात् संजायते कामः, कामात् क्रोधो विजायते, क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः, सम्मोहात् स्मृति विभ्रमः, स्मृति भ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो, बुद्धिनाशात् pranashyati. One thing leads to another. One dosha leads to another. And the end result is, हमारा जो brain है, बुद्धि है, इसका नाश हो जाता है. This is what we see in the world today. All the people sitting in these psych hospitals and murderers and hateful, all the degradation. It can degrade. Degradation can be tremendous. And the upliftment can also be tremendous. Most of the human beings are just stuck, unfortunately, in rajogun, tamogun. वो totally trapped है. They're not just partially trapped, they're totally trapped, 99.999%. Very few can rise above this. But actually everybody can, if they have the realization that this is something to be risen above. इतना ही ज्ञान होना चाहिए कि इसमें नहीं मिले. What we are wanting is अखंड आनंद. इसमें से नहीं मिलता. जहां आनंद नहीं है, that's where people are searching for it. And jahan anand hai, they think that is not, they don't know that it is there. They think it's not there. That's the difference. So when one adopts the Mahavakya and adopts this type of life, a different type of life, which J. Krishnamurti talked about, which Swami Chinmayananji talked about, which Ramakrishna Paramahansa talked about, which Aurobindo talked about, which Raman Maharishi talked about, which Jesus talked about, Guru Nanak Dev talked about, Bhagwan Swaminarayan talked about, his Paramahansas talked about. Everybody has talked about it. It's the same thing that they have talked about. That is to live a life that is no longer stuck inside the mud of ignorance. ऐसा इसको दिव्य जीवन कहते हैं, इसको मुक्त जीवन कहते हैं, इसको आनंदमय जीवन कहते हैं. Is it possible for us? Yes. But it's not. We have a choice. We have one of two options only. Take millions of more lifetimes rolling around in the mud, or be awakened right here, right now. Mahavakya, hold on to one of the Mahavakyas. Soham, Ayam Atma Brahma, Tattvamasi, Pragnananam Brahma. How to do that, we'll talk about it later. But hold on to one of them and don't let go. Don't let go at all. It's like that $1 billion diamond. You've found, oh, this is the $1 billion. Then you have to hold on to it. Know how to use it, what to do with it. Have to be able to recognize it. If a 2-year-old holds a $1 billion diamond, he thinks it's a piece of stone only. He doesn't know what it is. Must have the ability to recognize what is the glory of the Mahavakya. It is like that. If the recognition is there and that is me, my goodness. How can there be any fear left? Fear of who? Fear of what? और भगवान के साथ जो शरणागति है, भगवान की जो भक्ति है, इसमें कोई प्रकार का विक्षेप नहीं आता. No disturbance comes when we hold to the Brahmic state. That is the ultimate foundation for bhakti. Brahmo hi pratishtaham. ब्रह्म के भी मैं प्रतिष्ठा, मैं ब्रह्म के अंदर मैं हूं, भगवान कहते हैं. Meaning that we are Brahman, and within that Parabrahman is there. Ekadashi nu Vachanamrut Garada Madhya 8. Maharaj कहते हैं इसमें ज्ञान यज्ञ, योग यज्ञ. What we're doing every day, half an hour, 20-25 minutes, is ज्ञान यज्ञ. Yoga yagna is all the bhajan, kirtan, manan, the different yogas. When we combine Jnana yagna, Yoga yagna, eventually the realization happens that I am Brahman. I'm not this small being with the small problems and all that. That's not who I am. मैं कौन हूँ? मैं वो दिव्य ब्रह्म हूँ. दिव्य आनंद है. That is who I am. And that realization, that effulgence is there. It is sakshatkar. And within that, brahmo hi pratishtaham, वो जो ब्रह्म में पर ब्रह्म का साक्षात्कार होता है. That is called the end point of Jnana Yagna, Yoga Yagna. when the rishis were doing the actual havan with the havan kund, isme se Yagna Narayan ka, they could see the Lord coming out of the havan itself. This experience has happened when I have done havan actually with several people over the years. I'll tell you one small incident that happened in Tennessee. We were doing havan with the Siddha Kunjika, or there was a husband, Gujarati husband and wife, and they were sitting next to me. We had done, we were going through we decided to do 26 times. Or isme se, the female devotee, I forgot her name now, about 6 or 7 rounds into this, right from the havan, she saw Bhagwan Krishna come right out of the havan. I didn't see that. She saw it. Can you imagine this? It's incredible. Ye koi kalpanik baat. She was sitting right next to me and she was bowing. I said, she must be saying something. I just continued my puja. We just have Shraddha and Bhavana. पर भगवान की जैसी मर्जी, उनको ऐसा दर्शन हुआ था, हवन में से दर्शन हुआ था. कितनी अमेजिंग बात है ये. How can that be? What is that? That just shows that the Vedic rishis, when they did the Ved mantras, all the Ved mantra, इसमें से परमात्मा का दर्शन होता था. और हो भी सकता है even today through the havan. This has happened several times actually. So it's not some imaginary thing. So there's another kind of havan, and that is the internal havan. Gyan yagna, yoga yagna, or that is really our goal. I mean, this external is done so that we can do the internal. And when we do the internal, Bhagwan ka sakshatkar hamare mein hi hota hai. ऐसी amazing बातें सब. It's not some hypothetical nonsense. It's actually very real. इसीलिए इसको सनातन धर्म कहते हैं. It is eternal truth. It is not about religious affiliations and those foolish divisions. It's not that. Okay, so leave that aside. Let's stop here for now. We'll continue on this further tomorrow. Om Dhyanamulam Gurur Murti Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam Pujamulam Gurur Padam Mokshamulam Gurur Krupa Om Tameva Mata Chapita Tameva Bandhusha Sakha Tameva Vidya Dravinam Tameva Sarvam Mamadeva Deva Om Aim Reem Klim Chamundaye Viche Swaha Om Durge Rakshini Tha Tha Swaha Om Divilingaya Namaha Urdhvalingaya Namaha Anandalingaya Namaha Dvadas Jyotirlingaya Namo Namaha Om Namah Shivaya Namah Shivaya Namah Shivaya Shri Radha Krishnar Parnamastu. With that, we will